All right, guys, in this video, we're going to go over refinance requests for evidence of insurance. If your team doesn't do those immediately in their email, you can always add a pipeline status over into your your service pipeline. You can always add a status that's a EOI request, refi EOIs or mortgagee change EOI request status. If you're not using automation, you just want to do bind request statuses so you know what you're working on. You can always create that status in your pipeline section. You can hit the settings here, go to your pipelines and hit the plus button in the correct pipeline. Add that bind request status in here. You can do refi bind request, or you can do mortgagee change bind request. There's a few reasons why I would separate out the two. I do a refinance bind request because I want to track that loan actually closing. So I want to make sure that the loan or the refinance actually closed on time and everything's done correctly. You can always add a status to that pipeline by clicking the settings button here and adding a status to your service pipeline to track those. Makes your customer feel really good that you're checking in on those refis to make sure they're closing. You can always have some automation set up to do that. So you simply build out a drip and you'd attach it to that automations under your automation setting in your pipeline. But it's a really good way to track those EOI requests so that you can make sure you send those out and you don't drop the ball, and also make sure if you want to have drip set up that you can set them up on here so you can track everything more consistently. So that is one way to handle your refinance bind requests, is by adding a status, putting people into those status by either dragging them or by searching that lead and coming into that account and simply going to the pipeline section over here and putting them into the service pipeline under the bind request area as another way that you can handle those refinance bind requests to make sure that they're done. And if you want to add automation to it, you really can. It's definitely a nice touch to be checking in on those refinances to make sure that they're closing. They can be a little bit cumbersome for the client to go through, so it's a good touch point on the account, show them that you care about what they're going through. You can always add those under the automation setting, like I mentioned, using the groups that are triggering the drips you build out for that. So you'd simply come over into your text, ringless voicemail, or email drips, build out a drip for that, and you'd call it, refinance bind request, add a group called refinance bind request, and then create the drip underneath that so that those go out. Once that's done, just make sure you add it to the automation section, your automation settings section of your pipeline, so that it is attached correctly and those fire off. And then always test it, throw yourself in that status and make sure you're getting those responses from your agency and those drips. Other than that, the next video we're going to go over is mortgagee changes due to a new service provider. And this one, we're going to go over building out the specific verbiage of that drip, because I think it's a really important one to go over. So we'll talk to you soon.